Hello, my name is Mina Mahmood, and today I'm welcomed with Symphony Raudry from the School of Business Department. And today we're going to be conducting another Am IUN interview. Symphony, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do here on campus?
Yeah, thank you, Mina. So my name's Symphony. I'm the graduate program director in the School of Business and Economics. So I handle everything from recruitment, advising, just overall maintenance, oversight of the program, the go-to person when students have any questions or need any assistance. I also am the faculty advisor for our Latinx Community Advancement Program and the co-faculty advisor for our Women in Business Club.
Thank you so much for telling us that.
Thank you.
So I am interested in knowing kind of how you got to be in the position that you are today, and how your kind of early education helped you get to where you are.
Yeah, so to be honest, like growing up, I was not a very good student, especially like when it came to like math. Like that was always like the subject that I really struggled in, but I was always really good at like reading and writing and that kind of thing. So of course, like went through high school. I did earn enough credits to graduate a semester early, so that was pretty cool. But then after that, so my freshman year of college, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So it was recommended that I pursue business, just because you can pretty much go in any industry with business. So I was like, okay, I'll do that. Went to VU my first year, and that was a really big culture shock for me. So growing up, I went to Chesterton High School, but it's a predominantly white area. Don't really have a lot of representation, people that look like me. So in that aspect, I was kind of used to it, but it was completely different because my parents were really strict growing up. So then going to a university where there's people like not telling me like, okay, like this is what you have to do, and also being a first generation college student, I didn't have any guidance. So I went to my first year of college and I was really lost. I was unsure of how things work. I didn't understand the path or like things that were required to really like do good in college and to network and to just do everything that's like required of you to really excel. And at that time I was going through some like really personal like hurdles and things, a lot of family issues, and I left home at 18. At that time I had moved in with my then my boyfriend, now my husband at the time, and him and his family. And um, I did not do good in school, and so because of it, because of the issues at home, I just completely withdrew. I stopped going to classes. I just completely shut down and just kind of like shut off. And of course, like I failed out of my classes because of that. I couldn't go back to school. I had to take 1 year off because I was like, let me just work. I need to figure out like what I'm doing. And when I did want to go back to school, because of my grades, I couldn't get funding. So I couldn't get scholarships because it was at that weird point where my parents made too much money, but not enough to actually like give me money to go to school. And I couldn't get financial aid because, well, I basically failed out of my freshman year of college, just like being dumb, not showing up, which, I tell students, it's like today, now it's easy to talk to them about those kinds of things because it's like, hey, like I know like we all go through things, it's tough, but like just please go to class, like, like just please go to class. Because from my personal experience, like I just dropped out. I was like, I can't do this. I'm done. Well, I definitely learned my lesson. I had to start funding my own education, so I went to Ivy Tech. So I took one class a semester. Then I was able to take two classes a semester because I was finally able to pay enough money to take more classes. So slowly chipping away, just class by class, I got my associate's degree in business administration. And then from there, thank goodness, because of the partnership that IUN has with Ivy Tech, it was an easy transition for me. So after I got my associates, I came here. I believe that was in 2017 or 18, and I started working on my bachelor's. And so business administration, minor in marketing, and I was like, you know what? I need to like make up for lost time of how long it had taken me because, I took 1 year off to just kind of work and just trying to like figure out what the heck I wanted out of life. And then so I got here onto campus about 2018, started working on my bachelor's, and I just really like hit the ground running, like trying to be active, trying to be involved in as many different things as I possibly could. It ended up paying off for me really well because I they used to do like an awards thing towards the end of the year, like every spring, and they invited me. They're like, oh, like, like, here's this award celebration in the School of Business, bring your family, come out. And so I told my dad, I said, hey dad, like, I got nominated for like this awards thing, like, I don't know if I'm gonna win anything, but just like, if you want to come, you can come. So he came, and I ended up winning like 4 awards that day, and it was just like super cool because my dad's like, I thought you said you weren't going to win anything. I was like, to be honest, like, I had no idea. So it was awesome. It was like academic excellence, superior scholarship, that kind of thing. So it was like the 180 that happened just from a couple years before that. It was just like, oh my God, like, I can do this. I do deserve to be here. And it's tough because, like, as a young person, when you are comparing yourself to like other people that you went to high school with, and so it's like, because of social media, I would see my friends like, oh, like, well, by the time that I got my associates, like, they have their first real job. And so it's like they're working in the city, they're moving away, they're getting their adult life started, and I'm still like just beginning. So then you have these like battles within yourself of, okay, like, I'm not good enough, I'm falling behind, and just like all of these different things. But because of like my journey and how long it took me like 8 years from graduating high school to like getting my bachelor's degree. It took me 8 years, and there are times where I was like, I don't know, like, if I can do this, I don't know if it's going to be enough. But it's just to keep going, like, don't give up, don't stop. Everyone has their own journey, and it's there's no right or wrong time for it. So yeah, I don't know, I'm getting like a little emotional now because of it. It's something I didn't really talk about a lot because like I mentioned, I was like very embarrassed of how long it took me like to get to that point. So then after I got my bachelor's, it was 2020, which was like a terrible year to graduate. Couldn't find a job, so I was like, okay, well, I think I'll go back to school. So the director of the MBA program at that time, her name was Rocio Payne, and she like reached out to me. And at that point, I had no idea that I wanted to get an MBA. I was thinking about grad school maybe, but like I wasn't sure of it. And she's like, hey, like, I wanted to reach out to you because, like, since you were an undergrad student, we have this awesome program that we're testing out where we'll waive you out of some graduate courses because you did really good in undergrad. And it's like an accelerated program. So I think it was like the week or two before the semester started. And I was like, it's too good of a deal to like pass up. So like, okay, like, I'll do it. And I'm so happy that she like reached out to me and did that because I completed my MBA in 1 year, and then I was able to secure a job after graduating in 2021. Yeah. So I worked for Enterprise for a little bit, and that was interesting in itself. It's really good management training, but it's definitely the hours are long. So it's when you work at a rental car company, people think it's just like, oh, it's easy, you're just renting cars, but there is so much more that happens like beyond the scenes of that it's very like, I had no idea what I was getting into. But my experience there, I worked there for about 2 years, and then I was presented with the opportunity to come back to IUN, this time not as a student, but to come and work for the School of Business. So I knew that I had wanted to work in nonprofits. Just ever since I was little, I always had a passion for giving back to the community and just helping people, making the world a better place. So I knew that this was like kind of like my way into doing that. So yeah, that was a really long answer to your question,
No,
but
that's okay.
yeah,
I'm glad you're finally talking about your story.
Yeah.
And it's clear that it's very valuable, and it's definitely probably helped shape a lot of the things that you're doing today. So my next question is, given your untraditional background with education and all the obstacles that you faced on your journey to get to where you are today, what are some of the things that made you want to go back into education? You probably didn't ever see yourself wanting to teach other people, given the fact that you had your own personal challenges with teaching. So what kind of made that 180 happen?
Yeah, I would say that as a kid, like, and I don't know if this is just like a kid thing, but it's like I always enjoyed being like playing teacher. And so I would like line my stuffed animals up, and I was very into like science kits, and my parents always stressed like the value of an education to me. My dad and my mom, they have their high school degrees, but my mom has her associates, but my dad never went to college. So even my great-grandparents, my grandparents, most of them didn't finish high school at all. So my parents understood, especially being a woman, like how valuable like your education is and how you really need that to not only provide for your family, but to be independent and to be able to provide for yourself. So I always knew the value of education and how it was important. But in terms of like teaching other people, I don't think that was apparent to me until very recently. Because like as I mentioned, coming into this position, I tried to like hide, not necessarily hide, but I just didn't talk about like my journey in getting here because I felt like, one, being a young person in this position, people already are going to look at me differently. As I'm not saying that like I don't, like I'm not worth the position or like I don't belong here, but just like, okay, like has she really had her experiences in order to like be in a position such as this? And when I was telling people about it, they're like, oh my God, like I had no idea that you've like been through like X, Y, and Z and all of this stuff. And like working throughout my education, being that non-traditional student, like many of our students here at IU Northwest, where we do have to work and help provide for our families or help, in other ways that we can, I felt that it was kind of like my duty as a way to connect with other students here. Because growing up, feeling like I'm the only one experiencing this and no one else understands. And that's not true. There's probably a ton of other people who do feel that way and are going through the same thing, but they're not talking about it. So because of my colleagues and their support and their pushing me to talk about it, and then I really do, like I have these like great connections with students, and I love my position and I love working with graduate students, but I love working in the clubs like the best, because that's where I can really like connect with students and hear their stories, talk about the stories. It gives us time to really connect with each other. And I think because of that, September will be my 2 years that I've been working here. And that's been like making these connections with students has been like my favorite aspect. And I do teach a marketing course, and I'm going to be teaching an in-person business course in the fall. But because I have my MBA and my graduate degree, I'm really limited in terms of like teaching as like my profession. But because of this experience, it really has started to push me. And now I'm thinking about getting my PhD so that way I can teach full time and just like continue helping like students and to help develop them and just like let them know like, hey, like what you're going through, like it's okay. I understand it may feel like you're the only person right now going through this, but it's not the case. I have similar stories to many of you, and as long as you are still working towards your dream, it doesn't matter how long that it takes. It's just the fact that you are still pursuing that dream that matters.
Yeah, definitely. And with that in mind, what are some strategies or ways that you kind of incorporate your own understanding of education to students like yourself that you're teaching today?
I would say, so like in my marketing course, I always think about it from the perspective of when I was a student. So when I was a student, I think back to those professors who like really inspired me, who I really felt a connection. What were the things that like they did? What were the things that maybe some of the other instructors like did that I didn't like? And so I always think about it from a student perspective, a very young person perspective. What did I need at that age, and kind of like go from there, and just being on the same level as them, just trying to make a connection, and not always from the point of you need to understand what I'm saying, because it's like a two-way street. We can both learn from each other. So even though like you're young, and a lot of the students, I would say I'm probably closer in age to students than many of the faculty, but just trying to understand their world from their perspective sometimes is trying to get them to understand my world from my perspective.
Yeah, it's definitely a really good way to look at that. So with that in mind, how are some other ways that you kind of incorporate your own diverse perspective and your cultural background into what you're doing here today on campus? You mentioned that you work with the Latinx community here on campus, and then how do you kind of go about fostering those diverse conversations in the classroom and helping kind of give students like that a place to talk about their own backgrounds?
Yeah, so growing up and going to like a predominantly white school system at the time, obviously there was just blatant like racism, stereotyping, prejudice being expressed. And as a kid, you just kind of like, I just brushed it off because it's you know, like my family like always told me like, be proud of who you are, be proud of where you come from, which like, okay, that's great and everything. But like when I'm in school with my peers that you have like most influence over young kids, it's a little bit harder to do that. But I guess my coping mechanism to get through that was to completely hide that part of like my identity and who I was. So like my great great grandmother, she's from Sicily, and so that's a lineage that we have. But I mean, at the end of the day, like I'm Mexican, and so when people would say racist things or prejudice or just say their comments to me, I would deny that part of myself and just immediately revert to, I'm not Mexican, I'm Italian. And that's just like completely wrong, but it was like the way that I would like cope with like what was going on around me, because that's the only thing that I knew to do. And so those instances, and then of like not having I don't like the word minority, but not having underrepresented faculty or instructors in the school system until I got to this university. Like that was 18 years of my life where I went without having a teacher who looked or resembled me, or you know, kind of understood the community that like I came from. And having that like until 18, 19, 20 years old, you don't realize like the effects that has onto you until you're a little bit older. So I didn't start like really embracing my culture and becoming proud of it until I was like my early 20s. And I know that there's people here that feel that same way, because we're Northwest Indiana, we're very diverse, but we're still Northwest Indiana. And there are students who feel that way. So again, it's sharing the message of, hey, like, I know you went to Cedar Lake. Like, I bet we have a lot of the same experiences. And so really that's just what it is. It's just creating a safe space for students to feel comfortable to want to engage in these conversations. And I don't force anyone to have these conversations. I just share my own perspective, and then students realize like, hey, like I can trust her. This is a safe environment. We have a lot of similar situations that happen, and this is what happened to me. And so just being very honest with students and like, this is what happened, this is why representation is important, and we're all affected by it in some way. So it's not something that only happens to like Black or brown people, but it's something that everyone experiences in their own way, and each person can have a little tidbit that they can share as well. So it's creating a space for all students, regardless of their background, regardless of what they look like, because in some way we were all impacted by something happened to us. So it's just having a safe space for us to talk about it.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm glad that IUN is kind of a more diverse landscape for you to foster those conversations today.
Yeah, absolutely.
So my next question is kind of going back to your early education. What kind of got you, I know you mentioned that you were involved in your own family businesses growing up and things like that. Did that help kind of shape your interest into doing business in a day and helping other students and community members start their own businesses as well?
Yeah, so so my mom owns her own business and my stepdad owns his own business. So when I was going through like my associate's degree, I was working for my stepdad. So he owns an environmental cleaning business, which is, I was doing like office work, filing, and that kind of thing. And it's not a pretty business to be in. It's very smelly. It's very gross. So definitely wasn't something that I super enjoyed. But working for my mom, she owns a medical aesthetic spa. So it's a lot cleaner. It smells better. You know, they're not working with sewers or anything like that. So I was able to get a lot more hands-on. And there's a lot of pros and cons about working in family businesses. I would say the pros being that you get a lot more responsibility, a lot more opportunity to try things than maybe a normal employee would be able to do. Cons being, of course, you still have those like family dynamics. Cons, I guess, at some point, maybe more responsibility, not enough pay, or you know, that kind of thing, compensation. But it definitely created an interest into giving back to the community as well, because my family, like growing up, they didn't have a lot, but what they did have, they shared. And so like that was like a big thing for my family and I, is like, whatever you have, like share with your family, especially when it comes to like food. You know, like we all cook together, we share food together. That's how like we all bond, is over food. Giving back to the community, volunteering, that kind of thing. So especially for my mom, she is like a very ethical business owner, I guess is the way that I like to put it, where she's always like doing drives or fundraisers, giving back to the community, sponsoring things. So she really helped like foster that aspect into business. And so I think especially today, there's a lot of conversation on like what's the responsibility of like a corporation or of like a business owner, and people think like, okay, like it's to make profit. Well, I mean, that's a benefit of it, but that shouldn't be the sole focus of it. So like my goal by coming into business and helping teach students who maybe want to be entrepreneurs is to think about it more consciously, a more sustainable aspect, and more community driven.
Yeah, definitely. And with that kind of in mind, what are some projects or things that you've worked on in the past or even now that have helped, reestablish that value and sense of community
Mm-hmm.
here on the campus?
Yeah, so when I was working for my mom, we would do all sorts of different kinds of drives, and we've done like coat drives for like Native American families. We've done like gift boxes and things
Mm-hmm.
like that because, like living on the reservation, they have pretty much nothing, no running water, like no floors, dirt floors. So we would make care packages, send them out like for the holidays and things like that. And she would even sponsor some families, and we were just like doing all different kinds of things like that. For the School of Business, we did a professional clothing drive that was through our LaCap group and our Women in Business Club.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people don't know that there's the professional wardrobe closet here on campus and career office, the Career Development Center.
Mm-hmm.
So we wanted to replenish that, bring more awareness and attention to it. So our groups did clothing drives for that. And we like to do like junior achievement as well. So some of our students will go to like Munster High School, Munster Middle School, a lot of the elementary schools nearby, and help teach students, typically from like underrepresented communities, about
Mm-hmm.
like mostly finances, like how to budget, what does it look like when I have a career and I have to pay bills and that kind of thing, because financial literacy isn't something that's taught to a lot of us in those communities.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's very inspiring that you're still doing stuff like that today. And, looking forward in the future, what are some other things that you hope to accomplish that might reestablish that sense of community and
Mm-hmm.
also educating the younger people about stuff that you thought you should know when you were younger?
Yeah, I think for me personally, getting my PhD so that I can do teaching full time in order to um, help students, like you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned, because as much as I like this part, the administrative aspect isn't my favorite. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
sitting and doing paperwork and all kind of like the back end stuff. Like it's required. I have to do it part of my job, but it's not my favorite. So the people aspect, the teaching, the developing, has really what I've fallen in love with this position. So I think in order to continue, like helping the community and just kind of the things that I have been doing so far, I think that's my next step, is having to get my PhD so that way I can teach full time. I would like to stay here at IU Northwest because I do have like roots here,
Mm-hmm.
born and raised in Northwest Indiana. So I have a really big connection and love for the community.
That's amazing. I'm glad that you feel that way. So, kind of going back to all the people that have been involved in your life
Mm-hmm.
and helping you get to be where you are today, who have you felt has been your greatest support system along your journey? And also, like, what are some ways that they have, continuously helped contribute to being where you are today?
So like my family is very supportive, but I would say that the number one supporter has been my husband. We've been together since our senior year of high school, so
Mm-hmm.
this August will be 12 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's been a really long time. He's like we're each other's best friend and everything like that. And anytime I have an idea, he's like always like, go for it, like do it. And I would say that he like saw the value in me like way before like I saw like the value in myself, and he was always like, oh, like you need to like push yourself, you like go do it. And I was like, I don't know if I should apply, or I don't know if I should do it, I don't think I'm qualified enough. And I think that's maybe
Mm-hmm.
just like men having more confidence in general than women, because men will apply for like any job. It doesn't matter if they only hit like one or two like qualifications. They're just like, oh, I'll apply. Versus women, we're a little bit more timid, a little bit more reserved, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe like not as confident to just like push ourselves and like go out and
Yeah.
do those
Mm-hmm.
kinds of things. But he has always been like my number one supporter. And I was allowed, or so when I was getting my associate's and bachelor's degree, so I can really like hit the ground running, do all my classes. He worked full time, and then I worked part time. And so he's in the union, and I mean the work that he has to do, like working on the railroad, working in the heat, the
Mm-hmm.
dirt, the blistering sun, like I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. So I appreciate that he does that, and he like he's okay with it. Like, he's fine with it, because he's like, you're getting your degree, like, you need this, it's gonna make your life better, it's gonna do so much more for you. So he has been like my ride or die. Pretty much is a way to put it. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, congrats on your 12 years coming up.
Thank you.
So, kind of going back to, all of the things that have gotten you to where you are today, what are some other things that you do off campus that you feel, helps you ground yourself, especially if, you're so busy? What are some other ways that you de-stress, and some other hobbies that you have?
Yeah, so in terms of hobbies, I like to stay active, working out, swimming, being outdoors, hiking, that kind of thing. Of course, spending time with family. So as dysfunctional as my family was growing up, like, they're still my family and I love them. And so, hanging out, cookouts, that kind of thing. Family's really big, is very important to me. And I'm sorry, what was the other part of your question?
And then, like, what are some other ways that you de-stress yourself after, a long day of working, and also all the things that you've been doing?
Yeah, I love being outside in my garden. So, like, I have a ton of vegetables. I like to make pickles and like make my own tomato sauce and stuff. So my husband will do that. We'll do that in the summertime, and just really being outdoors, spending time with family, and also trying my best to separate work and then personal life. I think it's really tough today when everyone has access to each other all the time via emails, texting, group chats, group me's, WeChat, all that kind of stuff. And I think constantly having people have access to you is kind of detrimental, and just it's exhausting. And so, like, I've been really good as like, okay, when I get home, I'm not checking emails. Like, I'm gonna be in the office tomorrow. Like, that can wait. The 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours when I get back into the office. So I think really having that like fine line of like, no, like, this is my family time. I'm putting my phone down. Like, really being in the moment. Has really helped me to balance like some of the really busy and stressful points of this job.
Yeah, definitely. So another thing that I wanted to ask you is, what have been some of your greatest accomplishments that you feel that you've had over the past couple of years, that you think are like your greatest successes?
Yeah, I would say definitely, I mean, getting my bachelor's, and then I would say even my master's degree, I would say even like trumps that, because I didn't have to get my graduate degree. It was just something like, well, I got my bachelor's, like, I'm going to continue pushing myself, and like, let's see if I can do it. And so I did it in 1 year. I got asked to be invited into the Beta Gamma Sigma Business Society, which the top 20% of grad students make it. And something to even I think about. So I was in orchestra from 5th grade all the way up through high school. And so at Chesterton High School, they have an intermediate and then an advanced orchestra. And so when I was a freshman in high school, I was like, my junior year, I'm going to make it into advanced orchestra. And so I did. So I thought that was pretty cool. So that's something I still think about. I don't really play the violin anymore that much, but I can. It's just not very good as I used to be. But yeah, and then honestly, I would say even securing this position for me was like a huge accomplishment for me recently, because I mean, the women in my family before this, they've all been waitresses, bartenders. My mom's a nurse. She owns her own business, and she's done very well for herself. And so I would say that us two are kind of like the anomaly of it. So even just the fact that I have a job, I'm not on welfare, I'm not on government assistance. I didn't have a child when I was a teenager, which is, the women in my family before that, that's just kind of like how things were. So even for that, for me, I feel like very successful. I feel like I made it because of those things. So yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, just I guess the simple things sometimes you got to take, be proud of.
Yeah, because those are like, the things that say you did it, And then another thing that I had in mind was, looking back at all the things that you've done, you mentioned that you want to get your PhD in the future. What are some other things that you really hope to accomplish over the next couple years, and things that you think would be really like groundbreaking for your career?
Yeah. I would say I would like to, like, obviously have my PhD, but so I can get even more involved on campus as well. And of course, it's nice to be recognized for like everything you do. So whatever that means in its own way, and it's not for like, you don't do things because of like the recognition it brings. You do it because you want to. That other stuff is just kind of like, it's nice. It's just like the little cherry on top. But yeah, just continue like helping the community, really move the Women in Business Club to greater and bigger things, having more interaction, more involvement with students in our clubs. Because with Women in Business, especially, we just started it this past fall 2023 semester, so it's a brand new club. So it's like we're just trying to get our feet under us and trying to get an idea of what the club is. So in the next coming years, I would really like this club and the LeCap club to really be really big, self-sustaining, and having students really active and involved and giving back to the community and to the campus.
Yeah, definitely. And another thing that I was wondering is if you in the future have to give advice to other women that are like yourself that are interested in pursuing a business, but that might feel a little bit timid or unsure of themselves. What advice would you give them, given your background, that might help them get started?
Yeah, it's tough. The first thing that comes to mind is just do it, which is just like, okay, like obviously, like in order to do it, like you have to go through and you have to do it, and that doesn't really address like the fears of like people may have about public speaking, social anxiety, or whatever it may be. But forget about what everybody else says. Like it's only you against yourself. Don't compare yourself to other people. It doesn't matter. It's just you against you. So in 5 years, are you going to be happy that you didn't take that opportunity? Or are you going to like take it, be scared by doing it, but then once you get through it, you're going to be so much happier? Because like living my life, I was very shy, very timid, very introverted. I still am more introverted today, but it's something that I've actively had to like push myself through, and actively like I guess it's like exposure therapy. Like if I like don't want to do something because I'm like scared by it, then it's kind of a signal that like you should probably do it. And so that's kind of like what I've been doing lately, is like if something is like scaring me because of public speaking, or because of just, oh my god, what if this happens, what if that happens, or what if I do this, it then just do it. It's going to make you stronger by going through it anyway. So
Yeah, definitely. That's really inspiring, and that kind of like means something to me too. So that's definitely really valuable.
Thanks.
And my last question is, if you were to give yourself a piece of advice when you were maybe my age or younger, to push yourself to keep going, what would that be?
I would say believe in yourself. Like don't talk badly to yourself, no negative self-talk, because like the world is tough as it is. Like the world is hard as it is already. You shouldn't be hard on yourself. Like anybody else in the world, like they can give you a hard time, although like it's rude to just give people hard times for like no reason. But the world, it can be a very hard place. It can be very tough. And so starting with yourself, you should always like talk positively, have believe in yourself, and just don't beat yourself up about things. Be your number one supporter, be your number one fan. Yeah.
That's good advice.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right. Well, Symphony, thank you so much for coming to this interview today. And everything that you said was just so meaningful and valuable. So I'm really glad you had an opportunity to share your story.
Thank you, Mina. I appreciate it.
So this pretty much concludes our interview for today. Thank you so much for watching.